The world in which you live has declared a war on fear. It has been diagnosed as a disorder, a malfunction of the mind, a weakness to be medicated, managed, and above all, eliminated. You have been taught to seek a life that is fearless. You have been sold the idea that a healthy mind is a mind that is perpetually calm, confident, and untroubled. But what if this entire war is a profound mistake? What if, in the deep work of exploring your own soul, you discover that fear is not the enemy? This is the act of shooting the watchdog because you are afraid of its bark. Fear is not a sickness, it is a symptom of health. It is a sign that a part of you is still alive, still wild, and still trying to protect something of immense value. You believe your fear is a monster that must be slain. But what if it is not a monster at all? What if it is a guardian standing at the gate of a sacred place within you? But have you ever stopped to ask the most important question of all? Why? Why does the psyche work this way? Why would your own mind hide your greatest strengths behind your most painful feelings? In this exploration, we will answer that question. Your journey must be into the heart of what you fear, not to conquer it, but to understand its origin. Your task is to discover that your fear is not a curse, it is a compass. And by the end of this video, you will understand exactly why it is pointing toward your own hidden goal. To understand why your fear became a guardian, we must travel back in time to the moment the treasure was first hidden. When you were a child, your primary need was for safety and belonging. Your mind, in its incredible wisdom, created a simple equation: acceptance equals survival. You learned very quickly which parts of your personality were met with smiles and which were met with frowns, silence, or disapproval. These unacceptable parts, perhaps your fierce anger, your loud joy, your sensitive vulnerability, were perceived by your young mind as threats to your survival. They threatened your acceptance. So your psyche, in an act of profound self-preservation, did something ingenious. It took these valuable, powerful parts of you, your gold, and it locked them away in the safest vault it could find, the unconscious. And to ensure you would never accidentally stumble upon this dangerous treasure and risk your belonging, it placed the most powerful guard it could create right in front of the vault door. That guard is your fear. Your fear of public speaking is the guard that stops you from accessing your dangerous, authentic voice. Your fear of judgment is the guard that stops you from accessing your dangerous, unique creativity. The fear was not created to punish you, it was created to protect you, and that is why it is guarding your greatest treasure. Fear does not always roar like a dragon. In the modern world, it is often a more subtle creature. It whispers, it rationalizes, it hides in plain sight, disguised as practical, sensible behavior. To use fear as a compass, you must learn to recognize its many hidden voices. One of its most common disguises is procrastination. You have a task you know is important, a book you want to write, a business you want to start, a difficult conversation you need to have, but you don't do it. You tell yourself, "I'm not ready yet," or "I'm just being lazy." But this is rarely the truth. Procrastination is often a form of fear. Think of a magnetic compass in a great storm near a powerful magnetic mountain. It does not point steadily. It trembles. It shakes. It seems unreliable. A person who doesn't understand this would think the compass is broken, but a wise navigator knows the trembling is the most important signal of all. It means you are near a source of immense power. Procrastination is not laziness. It is the needle of your soul's compass, trembling violently as you approach a task that is deeply connected to your treasure. The fear of failure, or even the fear of success, is so strong that your psyche freezes, unable to move forward. Another disguise for fear is perfectionism, the need to make everything flawless before you show it to the world. You tell yourself you are simply a person with high standards, but perfectionism is a dragon in a well-tailored suit. It is the fear of criticism, the fear of being judged as not good enough. So you polish and refine, you research and prepare, forever staying in the safe zone of preparation, never taking the terrifying risk of releasing your work into the world to be seen. Even chronic boredom and cynicism can be forms of fear. A cynical person who dismisses everything as meaningless is often a deeply disappointed idealist, someone who is afraid to hope again, afraid to believe in something for fear of being hurt. Their cynicism is an armored shell protecting a tender, wounded heart. Their fear is the fear of their own vulnerability. Learning to see these patterns not as character flaws, but as the subtle trembling of the compass, is the first step toward using them as a guide. So, when you have identified the fear, when you have located the dragon, what do? The modern world gives you a sword and tells you to fight, to conquer your fear. This is an act of the ego, and it is doomed to fail. To fight your fear is to fight yourself. You will only become more exhausted, and the dragon will only become stronger. The ancient alchemists understood the real secret. Their goal was not to destroy the base metals like lead. Their goal was to transform the lead into gold. They knew that the lead itself was the essential starting material. The alchemist does not throw away the lead because it is dull and heavy. He sees its hidden potential. He places it in the vessel of his work, and he applies the fire of his conscious attention, not to destroy it, but to break it down and release its hidden golden essence. Your fear is the lead. Your conscious, compassionate, and curious attention is the alchemical fire. This is the practical work. You must turn towards the fear, not with aggression, but with curiosity. You do not try to slay the dragon. You approach it and you ask it a question. This is a process Carl Jung called active imagination. It is a dialogue with the parts of yourself that live in the unconscious. You can do this in your quiet moments. Close your eyes. Bring the feeling of the fear into your body. See it as a figure, a creature, an energy. And then with respect you ask it, what are you protecting? What are you afraid will happen if I move forward? What is the treasure you are guarding? And then you listen. You listen without judgment. The answer may not come in words. It may come as an image, a feeling, a memory. The dragon of your fear of public speaking might show you an image of a time in school when you were shamed for your answer. It is protecting you from that feeling of shame. The treasure it is guarding is your right to be heard. By listening, you are not giving in to the fear. You are beginning to form a relationship with it. You are transforming it from a monster into a messenger. This is the alchemical fire, a gentle, steady, and courageous attention. When you do this work, when you have the courage to approach the dragon not with a sword but with a question, a profound transformation occurs. You do not simply become less afraid. The energy that was trapped in the fear is liberated. The goal is not to kill the dragon. The goal is to integrate its power. When the mythical hero finally approaches the dragon with understanding instead of aggression, the dragon does not always die. In many stories, it becomes the hero's greatest ally. It lends him its power of flight and fire. When you integrate your fear of conflict, you do not become a person who is never scared. You become a person who can wield the dragon's fire of righteous anger when a boundary needs to be protected. The energy that was bound up in the fear of the dragon is now liberated for your conscious use. When you integrate your fear of being seen, you gain the dragon's flight of charisma and self-expression. When you integrate your fear of failure, you gain the dragon's resilience to innovate and create without being crippled by the outcome. You begin to understand that the parts of yourself you were most ashamed of, most afraid of, were the very parts that held the keys to your greatest strengths. The lead did not disappear. It was transformed into gold. You stop living your life trying to avoid the dragons. You start to see them as signs that you are on the right path, that you are approaching something valuable. Your life is no longer about seeking comfort. It is about seeking wholeness. And wholeness can only be found by moving towards the things that scare you. So you see, the reason your fear guards your treasure is simple. It was the only way your mind knew how to keep you safe when you were small. It is an act of love, frozen in time. Your work now is not to fight that old guardian, but to thank it for its service and to let it know that you are now strong enough to hold the treasure yourself. Your fear is not a wall. It is a doorway. It is the trembling of the compass needle, telling you that you are finally pointing north. It is the guardian of the treasure. It is the compass that points the way home to yourself.